Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Rona, just statewide news service, jbiztechvalley.com, and now columnist for the Jewish Press.
And I'm having fun doing all of that, and my column in the Jewish Press is called Albany Beat, and we talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. But talking about government, the Albany County government, we have a county legislator here with us as our guest. Doug Bullock is returning for a second time, so we must have treated you well the first time, but welcome to the Jewish View.
Well, thank you for having me back, and I appreciate coming on the Jewish View. I really have been immersed in campaigning for Bernie Sanders, and have just gotten over the recent campaign, and things have seemed to die down, but they're suddenly perking up again because it's not over with. And I constantly have to remind people it's not over. The campaign continues, and we have important states to go yet. We have California, and we have New Jersey, and we're helping in New Jersey from this campaign up here. So it's been a tremendous voluntary campaign, over 500 individuals.
And one of the other things is that the superdelegates, the 20th Congressional District went for Bernie Sanders by 53-47 or
Yes.
something to that effect.
Yes.
And you're pressuring Paul Tonko, who's a superdelegate, Congressman Paul Tonko, to go along with the district and not who he wants to go with personally.
Yes, I think that's the moral thing to do. You have to go with what your district votes. Your district voted for Bernie Sanders, and it voted by a substantial margin. 5% in anybody's book is over the case of the margin for error. So I think you have to go with what your district voted, and if you don't, you're a superdelegate and committed to an establishment that needs reform.
And you're fighting for the reform, or you just...
I'm fighting for the reform.
And do you think you're going to be able to sway Mr. Tonko to your side?
I don't think we're going to be able to, but we're going to make a real indentation into this system as we have already in Albany.
Would you campaign against Paul Tonko?
Unfortunately, there's no way to do
no,
that.
I don't mean that this year. I mean 2 years from now.
2 years from now, that may be a possibility.
Would you try to groom someone to run against him because of him not voting the way his district?
That may be a possibility.
Might be a possibility, okay. What seems to be a big issue at the county legislature?
Well, the raising the age of smoking is on tonight at the county legislature.
Yeah, what do you want to raise it to?
21 from 18.
From 18?
I'm personally...
Is it 18 now?
It's 18 now.
Okay. They want to raise to 21.
Right.
And you're going to vote for that?
I'm going to support it.
Why?
I'm going to support it because I believe it saves lives. And, if it saves lives because of, tobacco and nicotine, which is a cancerous form of substance. And I think that, if we save anybody's life by doing that, it's even one, I'm for it.
Yeah, but you were saying before, if you could fight and go to war at 18, why can't you smoke? I mean, that's such a high-stress area. I'm not in favor of smoking. I'm not advocating smoking. But, if you can go to war at 18 and risk your life, you don't feel you should be able to light up at 18.
Yeah. That's an injustice. I agree. It's not fair. And I've been contacted by people in my district on that issue, because I do have the district that's the downtown SUNY campus. Well, and they have contacted me and said, I can sign up to go to war in Afghanistan, Iraq, but I can't, smoke, and isn't that a right also?
Well, just like Paul Tonko's not representing his constituents, how come you don't vote against this?
Well, that's a good question, Mark. But, this is an issue on saving lives, I think.
It's not going along
It's not
with
the same thing.
It's not a matter of going along with the majority
It's not
and the political aspects of it.
Right. It's not a matter of going along with what the majority wants. It's a matter of going along with what's best for the health of people. And, you know,
Do you explain that to the kids who call you up, or the constituents who call you up and say, we want you to vote against this bill,
I try to.
and they don't buy it? huh?
They don't buy it. They want their right. They want the right to smoke, and I understand it.
You know, I was in favor of the Clean Indoor Air Act and, having smokers go 25 feet away from the building, and all that, so.
I was too, and indoor air pollution, mechanisms where you can get it out of the indoors, and then we finally got it where we got it out of the buildings, and that was the best way. I think, you just have to, secondhand smoke is a terrible generator.
I have never put a cigarette to my lips, and I feel that the secondhand smoke has harmed me more than if I did smoke,
Yeah,
because my lungs are not used to it, or, there's no coating, there's no,
yeah.
there's nothing that would make it it would make me more susceptible to cancer and all that. One of the things that you're known for is being a very big union guy.
I am.
And you've been talked about as being the most liberal member of the county legislature.
Well, thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it, and I don't know if liberal is the correct term. I would think that Bernie would accept that, and I wouldn't either. But
What would you go with?
Well, a social democrat kind of.
Really? Is that what you're-
Well, for sure. In terms of improving the lives of people in the Albany County Legislature, and that's what the label I would prefer. And
Mario Cuomo had another label. He said progressive pragmatist.
Yeah, well, pragmatist for Mario may not work out, especially if the investigations into his background doesn't work out.
Mario Cuomo said that.
Oh, Mario Cuomo
Cuomo
said?
said he was a progressive pragmatist.
Oh, okay.
Now, Andrew is a whole other story, but the first Governor Cuomo always didn't
Okay,
like
Mario.
the liberal moniker.
You're right, Mario. Yep.
Yeah.
But, then again, Mario was one of the main progressive advocates of neoliberalism, and I think that he was on the wrong track then, and Andrew is following in the same footsteps now, and we've got the biggest corruption in state government we've ever had, so we got a problem here, especially with Shelley going down, and this week with Dean Scullis,
And then
probably.
John Sampson later this month.
John Sampson, I mean, it's,
And Malcolm Smith was already put away. And,
right, it doesn't look good for New York State,
Mhm.
and that's to put it real easily, because we've got problems, and we got to have reform, and I don't know if any of the bills will do this, and it's important that we look at what bills are important, are out there that really serve.
I don't believe you can legislate ethics. That's my issue with this whole thing. I mean, you're either a good person. I mean, look, you shouldn't leave your door wide open. You should have a lock on the door so that the burglars don't, make it more difficult for the burglars to get in. But the burglars are going to get in. And the same thing with ethics. I mean, yeah, you should have laws, but no matter what laws you have, there's always going to be some other way of getting in and getting beyond it. And you can't legislate ethics. It's what's in your heart. It's what you were brought up with.
You may not be able to legislate ethics, but you can have penalties when you find something wrong. And there should be penalties for everybody that is found wrong in this instance. And,
Yeah.
I think it should be a situation where the penalty should match the crime. And you got to be careful on the crime here in terms of who was influencing who. And it depends on the specific circumstances.
I've heard from some people in the assembly that they are kind of upset with the fact that they could have a consultant for their campaign, and then day after election day or whatever, you have them coming to you as a lobbyist, and they're asking for you to support a bill when you just paid them as a campaign consultant.
Yeah.
And they see that as being, really a problem.
We got a real open door policy problem with New York State government in terms of people going through that open door from government to private industry and private industry into government. And, you know, there's got to be some way to stop it, because once you get into private interest and certain interests take over, you get into incidents like what happened to Shelley Silver. So we got to stop it. And, you know, I'm for legislation that does that. But after this, the Bernie campaign, I'm also for voting rights legislation. And it's important that we stop this ridiculousness of the votes not being counted, because, you know, the votes were purged, somehow purged. Okay, and the rule is supposed to be 2 presidential elections, and you're out, okay, you're purged. But that shouldn't do it. I mean, who designated that rule? I mean, the purging amounted to over 125,000 in Brooklyn. I'm still trying to find out how many in Albany County, and I can't.
Well, I'll tell you, I dealt with this in the late 90s, with this purging issue. And they were not purging at the Board of Elections in the late 90s. And I had put together a big list that I gave to the election commissioners. And then they started to do the purging, but it was more difficult then because you had to go one by one by one. I don't know if it's better now when we're more, when it's all computerized and, you know, electronic and all that. But,
Wish
you
it
know,
was.
but the purging, I mean, I don't think they do enough in Albany County, or at least that was my last.
They need to keep up with the changes of addresses, and they don't keep up with that when people move, especially apartment dwellers.
In Albany County, you know.
Oh, for sure. I admit it, that for sure. I just did a mailing of that newsletter to the county, and I got 200 returns out of, what, 1,500, 1,600? I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm
that's
close.
10%.
Yeah, usually they say 10% people move every year.
Yes. You
You
gotta,
gotta keep up, you really, I mean, you're
But
right.
that's
it's
how
a
you
lot.
know, is when you do a mailing. That's what I always did. I always
Right.
mailed postcards. And whatever, and with asking the postcards to be returned, because it was the least expensive way for the post office to,
Yeah.
and whatever came back, I knew that I had.
that's what you had to keep track of, and that's what I should have done.
Yeah, I'll give you a few other tips, but I wanted to ask you something about your solar energy, because that's something you're really big on.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yeah.
You know, I keep getting information and phone calls about solar panels on my house. My house is kind of wooded, and I live on Hackett Boulevard, but there's not enough sunlight coming in to put solar panels to make it affordable. But they told me that the city of Albany should work on having a solar farm. And then you can take the solar power that's generated from the solar farm, and you can have the solar power given to the residents who can't.
We're looking into the solar farm in the county right now. The only thing that's solarized is the Albany County Nursing Home, which I insisted on in the first place
Okay.
because of its electricity bills.
Right.
Its electricity bills were going off the roof in the nursing
No pun
home.
intended, with the fact that the solar panels are now on the roof.
And yeah, right, are now on the roof, and they're cutting it in half. So I'm good with that, but, you know, I want to see a little more. But in terms of a solar farm, it's very important, and we have that proposed,
you
and I
don't
hope we
even-
can do it.
And you don't even need to have them low to the ground. You can make the solar panels where you could have parking underneath the solar panels. So
Yeah.
you can have an empty lot. I mean, Suffolk County has this at the county complex, where they have these huge solar panels, and you just park underneath the solar
Yeah,
panels.
and I'd like
I
to
thought
see
that
a
was-
solar garage too, where
Right.
people can recharge,
Right.
you know, from solar. It's really important. And, you know, I hope to expand this in the
Well,
county.
At least you should know that the library, the Bach Library, is energy efficient. It's a green library, and they use geothermal.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, so check into the Bach Library, and maybe
Okay.
you can
Okay.
use that as a model.
I like the LED lighting. I mean,
You do.
it's starting to take hold in the city of Albany, and they should do it as widespread as they can,
Right.
because it saves money, no
Te-
question about it.
Tell us what your thoughts are about this, the trains, the oil trains. You're upset about this?
Yeah, you know, we've got too much train traffic for the infrastructure for trains. And what I mean by that is we haven't really upgraded the rails in years and years. In fact, we've downgraded them and made passenger almost, unavailable in the United States.
Well, I get emails periodically from the governor's office about rail inspections. I just got one about an hour ago about updating on rail inspections. So the state's doing what they can.
The state's doing what they can, but it's really slow. We haven't had a double line between Schenectady and Albany for years.
Okay.
Come on, they tore down the track. There's a single line between Albany and Schenectady, and you can't run two trains both ways. So, that
Without
really
an
hurts in terms of your traffic. So the traffic going west to Buffalo, back to Albany is real slow. One of the things that it's real slow is because of the trains that are taking fracked crude oil. And it is fracked crude oil that's being transported mostly by these trains. And they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Longer and longer, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Longer and longer.
Right.
Longer and longer. Some of them are a mile and a half. It's incredible how long they are now.
They have big black cars.
Big black tanker cars. And some of them, I understand most of them are not current in terms of, having a double tank and being real safe. Most of them are the old type. 60% is the number I've heard that are the old type of tanker cars that are not safe. And, the sheriff, and I've talked to the sheriff on this issue of Albany County, and, how much of a repressant do you have for this type of tanker oil fire, and which takes, a special repressant, and he has, for 3 tanker cars. So if a whole line of tanker cars goes, Albany's in trouble. So I'm concerned about that.
Why would this fall under the sheriff's duty? Why not fire, EMS? I mean, why is it under the sheriff's?
Well, the sheriff is in charge of fire and EMS and everything in the county if there's a disaster.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's my solution. Okay, I'm going to tell you, the tracks are federal, the trains are under federal regulation, and I believe, and then you have the apartments that are federal housing down at the south end.
Okay.
Okay, the federal government spends billions and trillions of dollars on stupid items, okay? If
I
they
agree.
built a fire-resistant wall,
I agree.
similar to the sound barriers,
I agree.
that look nice,
They go along the freeways and throughways.
and they go along the tracks,
Yeah.
so that when if there, God forbid, is a fire, if the train falls, they got someplace to hold it up a little bit longer, right? So it doesn't have to immediately fall to the ground. But also, if there is an explosion, it'll keep the fire away long enough
I
where
agree.
people can evacuate. And you can make them look nice and aesthetically pleasing.
Yes, I agree. And you could make the sound go away. The
That's
sound is the big thing down there. I mean, the sound, clang, clang of those
It won't
cars.
go away, but it'll be less.
It'll be
muffled,
less,
yes.
and it'll be
dramatically less. Yes.
One other thing that it'll do, it'll help connect the rail trail between that point and the Corning Preserve Rail Trail. And once you connect those two, because you got to build the wall,
Right.
you might as well build the trail.
Right.
You'll have a completed trail that circles around Albany.
So why
it's
isn't
important.
anyone listening to us, Doug?
I don't know, Mark.
Okay, you're an elected official, you gotta get out there and you gotta talk to the people who are supposed to be spoken to.
I'll try to tonight.
I
I'll
mean,
do my best.
I mean, the head of the guy, Boardman, I think, is the head of the transportation, railway transportation, and he used to be head of the state rail transportation.
Okay.
So he's the guy, he's a New Yorker, he might listen, give him a call, see if you can get up a meeting with him, talk
Okay.
to him.
Okay.
We can get a big wall, maybe
Okay.
Donald Trump will build the wall, who knows, so
Okay.
he knows how to build walls, make them look nice. But I think that's what we need. I think that'll solve a lot of the issues. I mean, the trains are the train, whether they're, you know, if you don't like them and they're an eyesore, you put up a nice-looking wall and you can
Yeah.
move on from there, you know?
We haven't put in the infrastructure. I'd really like to comment on what Bernie did up here, if I can.
Yeah, what? Tell me.
You know,
What is this, really? What do you think what he did?
Because he wouldn't come on the show. He came into the
Well,
library,
Doug has
and I
a
wanted him
maybe
to come
even-
on
I
the
was
show.
there.
I wanted him to come downstairs here
Really?
and to do the show, and they wouldn't let, even 10, 15 minutes.
oh,
But he wouldn't let him.
they ringed that center off in the armory. They ringed it off real bad.
Yeah,
They
but
let-
he came out in front of the library to talk to.
Yeah, I know, that was
the-
wonderful.
But he didn't come downstairs to do the show.
Oh, okay, well,
That's where, he was in the building.
he was
you know?
looking at most of the people.
That's my beef with him.
Okay,
You know?
okay, I can understand that. I was inside waiting for the meeting, which I had at that time with Bernie, and he was very elegant
Gracious.
and gracious, and he met with the political leaders that dared to come out and support him, and I was proud to be one of them, and along with Phil Steck and along with a couple others. And I think it was really important that we got the vote out there. We won Albany County, but more than that, we not only won Albany County, but what I wanted to emphasize, we won the CD 21 by
20, you mean.
21 up in
21.
Stefanik's district.
Oh,
I'm
Stefanik's
talking about.
district you
We
won.
won that by a huge margin, and you know, it was like 69 to 30%,
So
31.
who are the superdelegates up in?
So the superdelegates are going to be all Bernie delegates.
They
And
are?
oh, yes, they
Oh,
are.
good.
And in fact, in CD 20, there'll be 4 Bernie delegates and 3 Hillary delegates, okay?
Kathy Sheehan, Paul Tonko,
No, Kathy Sheehan, Dan McCoy,
yeah.
and Carolyn McLaughlin.
Oh,
Okay,
I
the
thought Kathy-
4,
oh,
let me give you the
Kathy-
4 for Albany.
Okay.
4 for Albany are Heather Spitzberg,
Right,
Josephine Moore, Larry Whitner, and Frank Barbaro. And now Frank is sort of bowed out, so I think it'll be Brian Alapet. So, you know, when the final, that's what it's going to be, you know, for the Bernie slate.
is this the same?
4 to 3.
Is this the same Frank Barbara who was a former state assemblyman
Yes,
from
Yes.
Bensonhurst?
yes. And he's having health problems, and he can't do
really?
it. Yes, and I, you know, I wish him well if you're listening,
I
Frank.
knew him when he was here, when he was in the assembly, I mean, because I went to Lafayette High School in Bensonhurst, so we had that connection with,
Well, he was my hero.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Labor, right?
Yeah, Mr. Labor, and he was really wonderful for labor unions.
Well, send him my best when you talk. to
Okay,
him.
Mark, I will.
So what else, what other items about Bernie in this region that you wanted to talk about?
Well, it's not over with. You know, it continues, and people shouldn't think that it's over with until the convention. And it'll be a contested convention. And, you know, I think it should be in terms of how many
Regular delegates.
regular delegates are there. Now, look at New York State. New York State, 47 to 13 in terms of counties. 47 counties voted for Bernie in New York State. 13. Okay, the only things that voted for Hillary was the counties of New York City, Syracuse, Buffalo, you know,
Right.
Rochester.
Erie, Monroe,
Right, the
Onondaga.
big cities where the establishment was there. So, you know, we've got a new dynamic. We're not stopping after this primary. So a lot of people think that we're stopping. We're not stopping. We're going to go on and support the primary in New Jersey, which will be last, okay?
California's last.
California is not last. California's second last. New Jersey's last. And, you know,
Okay.
after California, I know that.
June 7th. No, but I was thinking June 7th. Did you hear that Governor Chris Christie's going to head up Trump's transition team?
I didn't hear that, but
Okay.
I imagine he'll be Trump's pick for vice president.
Well, you know, Dick Cheney headed up George Bush's transition team, and Dick Cheney said, I couldn't find anyone better than myself, so I'm going to, I recommend myself as your running mate,
Dick would do that, I would never. But, it's a situation where, look at Trump and look at this anti-immigrant, Islamophobic creature.
But is it really that, or is that just an image that the liberal Democrats are trying to make?
I think it's really on the issues, and I don't think we've had an issue campaign yet.
I mean, I don't think that he, a lot of what he's saying now are, in fact, he said that on Meet the Press, is that they're policies, and obviously when you get down to negotiating with the Congress, his positions of what he's saying now in the campaign will obviously change on the compromise, and he's very much into compromising and, striking the deal.
Yeah.
So,
He can say whatever he wants, and the fact remains that he's been getting most of the publicity on the corporate media that we've had. And all we hear about is the race between Trump and Hillary. We don't hear about Bernie. So I'm really, distrusted on that because of what is being reported. And I think we ought to have balanced reporting. I don't think that this thing is over by any means. I think that the coalition here in upstate New York is going to continue. We're going to, try and run for office in every prospect that we can, and not break away from the Democratic Party, but help the Democratic Party become more progressive, because it isn't right now.
I'm a part of this chat group for Bernie Sanders, so I see all this chattering going on back and forth of, to keep the momentum going, and maybe even after this election, that there should still be meetings of this chat group.
Oh, there
so
will
that
be.
they could still carry on and run for office and support each other, and have more of a renaissance, basically, growing out of this. So, someone told me that Bernie Sanders will do better for himself not winning than if he did win, because he'll look like the statesman. He'll come away looking like the person who was very, the imaging of it, and he was, he had his views. He spoke about his views. He spoke out, and they've been saying that he'd be better off if he didn't win. And I don't know if
I think he'd be better off if he won. And one of the things I think that he may be able to do that, and it's all going to depend on superdelegates. So let's all be honest. It's not going to be attended on the delegates that were elected to go to this convention. It's going to be on superdelegates.
And the Albany County Executive is one of the superdelegates, and you're a county legislator, and you can't convince him to vote with the people of the Congressional District?
Mark, I'm going to do everything I can to persuade him to vote for Bernie.
Now, you supported Dan Egan in the primary against Dan McCoy, so
That's
how
correct.
much does that give you sway with Dan McCoy now that, the
Well, not
election's
much,
over?
but he has to hear who I'm for, and that's important that I let him know.
Okay.
Because it's something that the people of Albany County have decided. They decided 53 to 47 that Bernie was a better candidate, and you should too.
Okay, now, what in the
He's a
final-
committed delegate, though.
In the final,
Paul isn't.
okay.
Okay, he's a super. Paul Tonko is a super delegate.
In the final minutes, is there anything we didn't bring up that you'd like to mention? Because I got a lot of things to talk about.
Well, go ahead, go
Another
ahead.
half hour,
I'll let you go first.
No, I want to talk about the land bank for a minute or two.
Okay, yeah, good.
Tell us about the land bank and
Well-
where it's going right now.
Well, I'm really glad of Snyderman's latest lawsuit, because it brought a lot more money to the land bank, so we don't know how far we can go. But there's been projects on the land bank that have been successful, and it doesn't look like, much has been done, but a lot has been done on Clinton Avenue and in the Arbor Hill areas
Right.
of Albany, and we're going to do it section by section and rehab these homes that are not only vacant, but also reconstruct homes where the possibility best lays.
I was driving through Arbor Hill earlier, and I saw some homes that were just totally, the county came into, or the city, and tore them down, made,
Yeah.
to rubble.
Yeah.
And now will they leave it as a vacant lot, or will they build it up?
They'll build it up in the south end. We got projects down there with the Albany Land Bank. The Albany Land Bank
I
will.
saw some new homes on
We got a
First.
new director.
Yeah,
Okay, we're
Who's the new
affirming the new director tonight.
oh, who's the name? No one will see it beforehand.
I know, I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, fine.
But he's good. I read his
He's good.
resume.
Okay,
He's good.
All right.
But, it's important that the bank keep doing what it's been doing.
Okay.
And that's in terms of rebuilding in Arbor Hill and the Upper Clinton Avenue. It really needs it badly. I mean, we're like 900 homes that are abandoned in Albany, the city. We got to do something about that
You're right.
plight. I mean, we got to make an investment. And this is the way to do it, I think, with the land bank. I think it's got the people together that can do that job.
Yep.
And everybody on the board looks good, even though I forgot the new director.
All right. So Doug, you were out of time, but we're gonna look forward to seeing all the good work that you've been doing for the people of Albany County and continue doing it with good health.
Thank you,
Continued
Reverend
success,
Simon.
yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mark. I didn't give you all the numbers.